Good morning. We will be starting in 10 minutes. The
Then I
meeting will be
started
starting at
answering
9:10.
data, and then you started. I started asking questions, and then what happens is like,
Good morning, everyone. We are now starting our April 3rd, 2026 contracts committee meeting. And we will start with our land and labor acknowledgement. We recognize that we are presently on the lands of the Chochenyo, Mawetma, Carthy, and Ohlone people, and acknowledge them as the first inhabitants of the land we currently occupy. I acknowledge that the burden of environmental exploitation and systematic displacement falls upon the labor of black and brown bodies in the building of this country and its institutions. I remember that black and brown bodies were born and died working this land against their will for generations. I also acknowledge the continued contribution of labor of survivors over the centuries to today of all immigrant labor, including voluntary and involuntary, forced and undocumented peoples in the building of what we refer to as the United States. Dr. Rochelle Rogers Hart. We will now move on to public comment. Members of the public are invited to speak to the board on any matter. So. Okay, let's do roll call. Rose,
President Yana,
present.
Clerk Gonzalez Hoy,
Present.
Anybody else?
Why don't we do some quick introductions? We'll start with Carla.
Jose Espinoza, Title IX Department.
Maxine Forte, Administrative Richmond. Mark Mitchell, Executive Director, United Teachers of Richmond.
John A. Bond, Citizens Representative.
Justin Decker, IFPT Local 21, SSA.
Jessica Petrilli, Director of the College Career Department. Kimberly Chamberlain, IFPT, SSA.
Lauren Wong Roberts, Chief Technology Officer.
Mary Kitchen, Business Services.
Jeff Parker, Acting Associate Superintendent of Business Services.
Rosa Cornejo, Executive Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you. And then online, we have a couple of folks. If you could unmute yourself and also introduce yourself, please.
Morning, everyone. I'm Ariel Kirschenbaum. I'm the coordinator of Career Technical Education, CTE, in the College and Career Department.
Good morning, Summer Sigler, Associate Superintendent of K-12 Operations.
Thank you. And then we also have our superintendent online, who'll be joining through Zoom for a little bit. That's it. Back to you, President.
Now we'll move on to public comment. Members of the public are invited to speak to the committee on any matter within the subject matter jurisdiction. If you have public comment, please raise your hand via Zoom. If you are here, don't have comments. So just raise your hand. Thank you. Now moving on to the approval of minutes for March 2026. Do we have any changes to those minutes? Okay, see no changes, minutes are still approved. Okay, now we're moving on to spirit context. Yeah.
Okay, just very briefly, the reason why, and I'll just combine purpose and outcome as well. This committee has existed 3 times in the last few years. Every time we've gone through some financial issues, the board has felt it's important to increase transparency about the expenditures outside of staffing, which what we call contracts or the 4,000 or 5,000 object codes. So this committee is reviewing all contracts that are over $25,000 in the unrestricted or restricted areas of the budget. Our goal is to find savings, but also just to look at everything we're spending in our budget, some outside of staffing for transparency purposes with community. The committee will make recommendations to the full board to ultimately approve or have further discussion. Anything else that you would like to add?
No.
Thank you. Thank you. And the structure of the committee, we have purposely included our labor groups to be part of this committee, so they can give their input and feedback. They are the people who hear directly from our employees, who for a lot of the time use a lot of these contracts. And a little bit of the structure at each meeting, our CBO, Mr. Carter, and cabinet members will present all unrestricted and restricted contracts. As I mentioned, in the current school year, after the spreadsheet with the contracts is shared, we will review each contract by one by one. The presenting cabinet member will provide an overview of the contract, including its purpose, funding source, and key details. Following the presentation, the committee will have an opportunity to ask questions. We'll begin with our labor partners and then move to our board members. After questions, we will open the floor for discussion. During this time, each labor group may share their perspective on whether they support maintaining the contract or recommending its elimination in the future. Once all perspectives have been shared, the superintendent will offer her recommendation. Labor groups will then indicate their position using a thumbs up, which means keeping the contract, thumbs down, eliminate the contract, or neutral, no opinion, or unsure. Then President Yan and I will then determine how to proceed with the recommendation to the full board. Any disagreements, whether from labor or board members, will be clearly noted in our notes. Ultimately, the recommendation brought forward to the full board will be determined by the two board members of the committee. We will repeat this process for each contract. Some items may move quickly, while others may require more in-depth discussions or be able for additional information. Thank you.
We'll now move on to the contracts for review. We'll be starting with college and career. We'll be continuing from our last meeting with college and career.
Yep, we'll pick up where we left off, just want to go over your classes today.
Yeah, I'll go with the schooling contract for, that's one we're in the middle of. So, hi everyone. I just want to say that Schooling is on Clever. It's a software that all students grades 7 through 12 have access to. And it's been, something that we've been using to really track our LCAP goals. So for example, one of our LCAP goals for 10th grade is to make sure that all students have a 4-year graduation plan. And so what's amazing about Schoolings is our students are shown on the platform how to make their plan. Their plan is very customized to their school, like what their school is going to offer them. So their school has very specific courses or AP classes or electives. They're able to pick and choose from what's available. And it's been a huge goal for us to just have students have this access to plan out so that they're prepared. So we've got about 85% of students to do this plan this year, which is a huge success through high school and middle school. We've also used it to track in 10th grade which of our students who are EL and African American are off track for ACT graduation. And with that, we've asked counselors to go in and log in if they've had one-on-one intervention with the student. So I'm really excited to share that right now. We're over 50% done with those one-on-one check-in. For some schools, completely done at 100%, which is excellent. And we're checking because of this platform. We're able to track by school, even by counselor caseload, who hasn't had a chance yet, student, and to give them the nudge. Hey, we've noticed, given that you're tracking it, can you please let us know if you need any support? Those were emails that we went out this week. More recently, we just passed the state seal of civic engagement, for example. We can tell, we just got a video last night to students, log into Schooling. This is where you go, this is how you can apply for the state seal. So it's a customizable district platform. It's also where we post multiple opportunities for internships, jobs in the summer, scholarship. I get probably asked to promote a scholarship like at least once every 3 days, like, oh, here. And I can always put it in a chat to counselors and hope it goes to Google pages. And I'm sure it does because everybody's trying to get the information on the student. But I like how Schoolings is also like one more platform that all students can see. It's not as good as how one person is at communicating at the school. For CTE, we've been using it a lot this year. So for example, a lot of our grants, we have to track work-based learning experience. And we don't want it to be just for the adult, as to say, oh, good job, you got these kids as many certifications this year. We want the kids to be tracking it for themselves and to say what they got out of the experience. So students who are going on study trips or going on mock interviews or they have an internship, after the experience, they log in a reflection about the experience. So I was like reading some of it last night. I was like, it was really cool to see what kids are saying. So that's a newer feature that we started building out with our CTE this year. Finally, I get asked a lot of questions about alumni, where are they now? How do we know what schools they're going to? What are the highest college acceptance rates for our students? Or very specifically at this school. So we have the National Clearinghouse data connected into schooling, so I could provide that information to people, and help schools see their trajectory of like what students are selecting. And I'll stop there. There's so much I can say, and I just want to say that of a lot of software and programs out there, this is one that is for the student. Like that's why I asked for it. I don't ask for anything else for the college career department funded on LCAP. I want this to be accessible to all the secondary students, not just CTE students. Which, if I put this on all grant funds for CTE, that's the grant I oversee or CTE does. So for me, this was really important. This was an LCAP goal that all students have a 4-year plan, that all students have access to this college and career website. I didn't even mention, I mean, there's obviously tons of college and career exploration that kids can do. They can make their resume on there. They can favorite their favorite colleges. It's also like just a unique tool in that way as well. But I'll stop there.
Thank you. Kimberly?
So, as I said before, CCGI is state mandated, it's going right into our dashboard. Striking for CalPAD. How does schooling strike for CalPAD? How is that going to work? We've had many reductions in our data teams, and particularly who's doing the work to make all of these programs work. And basically, how is this going to work without the support of your IT? We just recently in the district released that position, the person that actually wrote the scripts to make sure that spoke to Household, spoke to HealthPad, spoke to any other programs like the National Clearinghouse, wrote the reports for, and the searches for that. How is this going to work? Who's going to be doing this work? Because you don't have someone who's going to do this.
Yeah.
It's gonna, I mean, does this fall another absorption into an administrator that doesn't have the skills and technical aspirations to do this, as well as they're having to do, all of the testing, all of the discipline, and somehow or another they're going to be taking attendance and making sure that they're utilizing this program. How have the parents been utilizing this program? Is it something that the parents can actually use? And the languages that can be used. I know you guys have college and career nights. I don't think they're advertised as well as they should be out in the public for the families, especially at the university level. I do believe that it comes asking, going and looking at the contracts. I've been looking and speaking to the clerical staff, the registrars, the counseling staff, and this is a lot of work for them. And they're gonna have less people to do this next year. So how is this going to work? How are you going to support them with this program? What funding sources are you going to support that? Thank you.
I'm actually really appreciative that it's out in the open, that IT has had the ability to support sometimes, because they have a queue that's really long. There's a lot of people they're serving. So my department, this is actually part of the reason we meet with School Link every Friday, and we personalize and customize this platform. And we're doing a lot of the needs for IT, the upkeep of this platform. And Ariel's on the line. Ariel's probably like our basic CTE IT person. So just to be honest, like that's how we're doing it right now, because all these things are happening right now with the limited support, with people on leave and all the things you didn't know. And I'm just being honest. I'm glad you brought it up because I didn't want to bring it up.
Oh, I'm
But that's why-
that because
yeah.
we've reduced staff.
Yeah, no,
And
it's
it's
real. It is real.
consistently happening, and we're being asked to continue with programs and support that we cannot keep up. And I'm tired of people not being able to do the keep up and being, if we're gonna approve contracts that are gonna have that.
Mark?
So Jessica, we have had significant reductions in the counseling FTE in the district. And how is this not taking work that has traditionally been done by human counselors? Number one, and then number two, we have had a rash of challenges this year and last year of somehow students are being encouraged to do the state of preference or to register for classes that we don't offer. And then those choices are then used to RIP or reduce FTE for incumbent educators, causing wild instability at a number of comprehensive high schools every year. Does this program offer classes that are not actually offered or staffed at our schools?
This program isn't like offering courses. It's like, we customize it. I know, for example, let's say Snow Valley High School master schedule. And if we talk to the admin team, they agree, what are they gonna be offering next year? We enter those courses. That's how students select the courses. They tell me, okay, we're actually adding theater. That's an elective next year. Great. We'll add it to your school's account so kids can select it. What grade do you want to start selecting at? So it's I had the second question, I'd say is the administration, their master schedule team, they need to be working strongly to know that they're offering the correct classes. It's not about like schooling making a decision. That's the site.
Was American Sign Language offered through Schoolings at Kennedy High School, for example?
So it was on there to see the interest so that we could have a dual enrollment offering, which would have been amazing. That's an amazing opportunity for students. One semester of ASL would have got them 2 years of foreign language department and a college credit. So we're trying to increase dual enrollment, with the governor push, all students should be leaving, high school now at 12, early college credit. Our department is definitely supporting that. We listened to their master schedule team. They said they only offer one language. Other high schools have more than one language. What can we do? Is there dual enrollment opportunities for other languages? We went out and found it for them. Like, this is an opportunity.
There's no ASL teacher at.
Not across the college. We're not doing it fine. So we were allowed in our to have agreement to work with other junior colleges now, so that was really different. But I'm sorry, I forgot your question.
How does this not displace our counselors that the district is continuing
This
to?
is definitely not displacing a counselor. This is to make the counselor able to see what their students want, track what they're doing with their students, have the data at their fingertips. This is to make their life easier. If they're in the not too long ago days, I'd be like, show me that you had a 4-year plan with all your students. Like, well, I give presentations on this day, or I have this spreadsheet here, there. Is it one of our goals for LCAP is to systematize, align counseling practices, best practices. This has been one way we've been able to start that with. Like I said, even just having an intervention with all the 10th graders throughout the time, or from our two groups of students. Last year was all done in spreadsheets. It was like hard to track, how to find. Like now I'm like, oh, it's right here. It's where you at. Rick, congratulations, you guys did 100%. Let the principal know, let everybody know, like, great work. So if anything, this is a tool that we've been going at the pace of counselors for the things they control. CT teachers, they have things that they're controlling and supporting. It's
Jessica,
Is that Ariel?
Jessica, would it be okay if I added something? I don't know if that's okay. Hi, everybody. If I can just respond a bit to both, I think Kim and Mr. Mitchell's comments are kind of getting at, like, we're reducing staff. Is tech replacing that, or how is that not creating extra work? It's one of the reasons I feel so passionately about this tool is that with the given staff reductions, this is supporting elevate the work and make work more efficient for the limited staff that we do have. On the IT side of things, obviously losing the folks that we lost we feel that pain. It's detrimental, I'll say. The reason why in this case Schoolings is helpful in actually reducing workload on IT is that instead of everything having to be a help desk ticket and having to integrate from asking somebody on the Power School side, we've already done all of the outputting so that Power School is telling this tool Schoolings, what the students' credits are, what their grades are, things like that. So it actually allows counselors, parents, students themselves to have a lot of the information at their fingertips that maybe previously would have had to be hey, Cedric, can you do a query to run the report of how many students are on track? We can just see it visually, et cetera. For Mr. Mitchell's question, I would actually add something similarly. Counselors are, as we know, incredibly important and have large caseloads and bogged down, particularly the 4-year course planner feature and how it supports choice sheets, I think is another thing that is very exciting to our team about the tool, because students starting in 8th grade have a plan that meets the 6-period day, 7-period day, 8-period day, whatever it is at their school, of how they're going to meet all their requirements. Your question about, oh, does it show them something that the school isn't offering? No, because our team hand manages only showing students what is available to them at their school site. Additionally, an equity move that we're considering making is making sure students are eligible to see, for example, all AP course offerings or other dual enrollment acceleration options, so that what is offered at a school potentially is the argument could be made, oh, we have enough students here who are demonstrating interest. The master schedule team could consider offering that, the following school year. And finally, I would say it's not a decision maker. So it's essentially a live document, or at least the 4-year planner piece, where students can see the plan of how they're going to meet graduation requirements. If they fail a class at the semester, PowerSchool tells School Links that requirement turns red, and the student can see live, I failed Algebra 1. I'm going to need to plan for that. For the counselor piece, in addition to, they already are doing choice sheets and things with students, instead of having to restart at square one again every year with, all right, let's pull your transcript. Do you remember the requirements, et cetera, et cetera? They can build off of what the student already built in 8th grade. They're familiar with it. They come back to it 9th grade, provide edits, come back to it 10th grade. So I'd say in general, as we shrink staff, instead of having to rebuild the wheel and have different folks do things on paper, on spreadsheets, and start from scratch, this is actually a tool that can elevate and support in those staff shortages.
Okay, thank you, for that, Ariel. So could you talk a little bit more about the difference between School Links and CCGI? And why School Links when we already have like a free program that could be used instead?
Yeah. So CCGI houses the application, and right now we're not done with our configuration. So it's currently students can't apply to use PCSU or FAFSA yet from CCGI because we're still in a data integration with Kinsey to make sure that the data, they won't let us go forward with the partnership to that degree yet. So we also are in standstill, but eventually, that's what I'm excited for CCGI for. It's definitely an amazing supplement to what we have, because it's going to allow the students to apply directly to FAFSA from the website. And then everyone will be able to see if a student submitted or is in the middle, because right now it's a lot of self-reporting for a student. And so now it's going to be way more accurate. They click select it, they submit, and they didn't press submit. So it's going to be great for us. It's also going to be great for us to know our CSU and our UC application. But that's what this state goal. It's just UC CSU. And we have a number of students who are applying using SchoolMate directly through the Common App. Or we have a system with our registrar, the college application manager. So any student applying to private school agencies, they're doing that SchoolMate. So it's a complement to what we have. We have the private school here.
CCGI is also California's tool, which is awesome, but it only shows the California state colleges. So UC, CCC, and state colleges, particularly as we support students considering schools, whether that be private schools or out of state offerings. That's one key feature. So a student in School Links, for example, can filter for, I want to see, where are the HBCUs? What are they like? Where are they? What is the application? And so that's one just key concrete add-on. Additionally, I would say is the profile piece in which students are editing their career goals and college goals. CCGI is great. It does focus on the college going mindset. With School Links, we can also advertise trade schools, trade opportunities, apprenticeships, and support students through that. And then lastly, from the CTE side of things, the employer database, the work-based learning tracking, supporting students with internships, demonstrating how they're earning like industry certifications, mentorship, stuff like that. And then I would say lastly, actually, it's a live data point for our college and career readiness outcomes that will show on the dashboard versus being kind of post-mortem where we see them after the fact. We can pull like, okay, where are we on meeting these additional pieces? So it's a complement and additional and adding on to, something that the state is offering, which is great, but it is the free platform that basically is promoting transition to the UCCC and CSU system.
Couldn't we, what is not offered by CCGI, couldn't that be part of the counselor's job though? I mean, it sounds like a great supplement, but it sounds like that could be done by the counselors, like reporting live outcomes. I'm sorry,
The college and career counselors that we have on site,
I don't know
For
if it's
instance?
sarcastic or not, I'm sorry.
we have college.
Oh, I don't know if you were like, we don't have one now,
I
but
think
okay.
that would be- Which would take away from what
Some
they're
sites
doing.
we have.
Every site has a policy for after
Every site has one.
position. Not every position is always full
At
at all
Hercules
times.
High, there's some woman for like contractor.
They have a position, right? It is a position.
Right.
So I guess,
To what Demetria is stating. I understand your argument for your program. I really do. And first of all, I really want to make this very clear. It has nothing to do with our school. It has to do with the integrations within systems. And a lot of it is CalPAS, which feeds how we get our data to the state. And that is huge. But it comes down to who's doing the work. Who's going to actually be working with these students, and it's taking jobs of them. Program is taking jobs of them.
That I would firmly disagree with. It's literally a platform for students to engage in favorite colleges, research, upload their experiences, reflect on their experiences, make their resume. It's a place also for our staff to use and customize as they wish. So they're like, I want to mark all the kids. I took an amazing field trip this week. I want to see how they felt that field trip was. I'm going to ask at least some questions. That's how we started using it this year for study trips to find out which ones are really hitting it with students. There's no job it can replace.
I also want to jump in and say, if let's say we said, we are going to move away from School Links and just do CCGI. What would a student lose and what would our counselors lose and what would we lose? We worked very closely with our DLCAP committee to build out their recommendations around how counselors are supporting African American students and language learners. We would lose our ability to track that. It would be gone unless we were having counselors do Google Docs and spreadsheets that would be more work for them. We would lose the ability to monitor how many students are applying to HBCUs. We would lose access to National Clearinghouse data, which we would either have to contract for separately or add another contract with UC to get. And so I think we need to think about what the pieces we're pulling from our kids are if we don't have this tool. And maybe in 3 years, CCGI will build out to a point that it can replace School Links. But we're not there right now. It would just interrupt a lot of progress and a lot of ability for us to be really streamlined and cohesive in a time when kids don't have access to as many credits. And so the planning that we do to get them college and career ready has to be incredibly tight and transparent.
okay, thank you. We're gonna go to Shanae, Francisco, and then Ken.
So I know you guys spoke to 85% students use this.
You did to do their 4-year draft plan. These are the 90%
85% of what amount of, what is 85%?
So like school like Pinole, they got like 98% of all their students grades 9 to 12, but maybe like another school, we got like 65% of their students so far.
So overall,
Overall, yeah, from grades 8 through 11.
And you're like,
Did a 4-year grad plan. on
85%
teacher.
district wide, not side by side.
Right,
And is this a requirement? Is this tool a requirement for all students?
right. So it's in our LCAP as a goal that all students have a 4-year grad plan. So this is where we ask students to do it, and this is where we track it by school, by all of our LCAP metrics. And see how many kindergartners haven't done it, how many, I could literally tell a site and give them that information.
I understand that, but the question is the student required to use this? Schools, is it a requirement, or is it just offered?
I see what you're saying. When the counselors do their presentation, it's required. It's like everyone take out your schooling, we're gonna do your 4-year grad plan. They spend a couple of days in the classes, doing the presentation, then showing them how to use it. So it's a requirement in that way.
Oh, okay, so. Second. Or it's not, I was just looking for like a yes, it's a requirement, no, it's not a requirement, and I don't think they're going around the question. Is every student required to utilize this tool? It's like, yes, they are, if they don't use it, what are the consequences? Or is there any consequences if they don't use this tool? That's what I'm trying to get at, is it a requirement, a must?
Okay. I would say there's no consequences if you don't use it. It's just like a class assignment. We're trying to get 100% kids to do it. Some kids are absent, some kids don't do it. We're shooting for 100%.
So it's not a requirement. If I was enrolled in Pinot today and I decide not to utilize this school, that's my issue, not to utilize it, I have to go to the right.
Sure, but the counselors are looking at that data and trying to engage with the students who haven't done it to help them, and this is a tool for them. Sorry, that's okay.
The platform that students use, you said, students can apply, that's
The CCGI one,
CCGI.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And they apply to scholarships, schools, or, college, welfare schooling,
So,
like,
um,
university.
so schooling only has partnerships with Common App, so it's a direct for that. And then obviously, we still ask them to track schooling when they apply to any schools, so we have like a list right now, like where did everyone apply? But there's no, the UC facilities will not allow any third party platform to do direct application. So CCGI is like a perfect assessment, that's where they'll apply directly.
But it's not currently integrated into schools.
No, it's not allowed to be integrated.
Gotcha.
I think the main thing, if I can say one last comment, because I know we're running out of time, is just that.
You're not right.
Okay, so this is customizable to our needs. So if the LCAP goal changes this next cycle, and they're like, no, we really want to track this, or this is what we want to push for. We can then make that into schooling one of the goals. We can mobilize. This is like a method and a tool to get things done that we're saying we're going to provide for everyone. And it's something that I'm excited that we can disaggregate the data really clearly by site and pinpoint who's not getting what we're saying we're giving to you. And I think there's just that. There's so much believability to this. That's why I'm excited about it. CCGI is amazing. It's going to be a great platform and actually supplement for students, but it's nothing customizable. Like the state seal is a good example. We just made our videos last night because kids had to apply online using tooling, customize, how they'll know their meeting criteria. Just have one tool for the district.
And if I can add my last comment as well for time, I would say that in working with counselors and CTE teachers and administrators and students over this rollout that we've been working on for the last couple of years, in my opinion, the strongest barrier to adoption has been the uncertainty around, will this be here to stay? I have yet to have completed a training with where that hasn't been a response. Oh, but is the district just going to cut it? Oh, but is the district going to cut it? Which is kind of, I think, reinforced hesitation to really fully, adopt and get moving. And we have done an incredible amount of work to build buy-in and to support with fluency and training across all school sites. And so I worry about the risk of eroding trust if we have put in all of that effort and we pull out the carpet now when we have reached these goals. Like Jessica was saying, 85% of students who, as of the date we pulled it, had a 4-year plan, which represents over 5,000 of our students 8th through 11th grade. With this commitment to say, no, we're serious about this. West Contra Costa is serious about college and career outcomes across the board. And this is the one tool we're utilizing to really support that and reinforce that. And hey, parents, here's how you can explore careers. Students, here's how you can make your 4-year plan. It will only exponentially continue to reap benefits if we can show our community, like, yes, this investment, all of this time that y'all have been putting into this tool wasn't for nothing.
My final, is the CCGI going to be mandated by the state?
It's mandated that we do the integration within the current process, yeah.
And so that will mean that the schools could have more work doing both programs.
They'll have more access to more tools for students.
But they're gonna have to, who is going to support both programs?
I don't know, I work with counselors. They have tons of, even if I give them schooling, they still have their favorite tool online. CCGI is a tool, this is our district's tool.
But they're gonna have to keep both of them with the same data and information.
Correct. One serving like applying for schools and FAFSA, one serving like our district's global needs and opportunities for students. So guys, they're serving directly. Opinion?
Okay, thank you, everyone. Good discussion. Let's now move to more questions. Let's move to discussion a little bit. Anyone have any thoughts about this before we vote on it? Okay, Superintendent Cotton, anything you wanted to share?
Good morning, everyone. I think that this is a valuable tool. We have put it in place for the last couple of years and continuing this work and really getting full participation, knowing that this is a tool that will be in place to support our students, I think is really important. I think that the state's tool is not quite where it needs to be to fully support our students at this time. We can continue to monitor that, but I do think that this is a valuable tool that we should maintain in support of our students and really understanding, allowing them to really engage and interface with their plans, both for their 4-year experience, but then also for their college experience and career experience as well. I think that it is a tool that helps to lighten the load for our administrators and our counselors, and kind of helps them refocus at work and have some continuity in their conversations, knowing the caseload that our counselors has. This is a tool that allows it to be more of a seamless conversation. So I do support this.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, let's move to a vote. Favor, how do we feel about this contract? Share your vote. Oh.
You're the contract year by year, gets renewed.
This is year by year, right? Yeah.
We have the option of signing a multi-year to lock in the rates, but currently we've been signing 1 year.
And what is CGI mandated? What's CGI?
It's already mandated, and we're technically already in partnership. They're still in this data integration phase. But it's not. Students don't use their own personal basic accounts at this point, so there's no district account yet.
How long is that gonna take to finalize that part?
College and career hasn't had a focus yet, so that's.
I've definitely had it as a focus, and I've been in communication with Power School, and they told me their person's on leave, and I have to
It
figure
is
it out.
a Power School, it's data integration program. Power School was not tool. There was a data integration program. Trevor and the analyst, we lost one position was eliminated. And the person left, found another job, and now I'll put my other hat on. And the other person is out on maternity leave. The only other person that should do the work. So at this point in time, there's nobody, but this is a program that has had its feet dragged on it for over 2 years.
Not because of college member, because of our technology agreement. That was the first hurdle, just to get everyone to sign, even though it was a state mandate, first hesitation. Larry Roberts could speak to that. That took over 8 months to decide with lawyers that finally we were gonna sign the integration. Step 2 is then actually getting the data and making sure it syncs. They're still in that process of figuring the things between our IT team and their IT team. And so, so having schooling for the last 2 years has been a lifesaver because we haven't been able to lift this program, even though it's sitting there and something maybe we could use, but it's still not ready for us to use.
So Kim, what's gonna require for us to finish that process from the department?
We have to wait till the person comes back from maternity leave at the end of April at this point.
And after that, how long do you think it would take?
Not quite sure that the person went on emergency maternity leave.
Sure.
Sooner than needed, we didn't get our training yet, so it's gonna take a little bit. Probably, you're talking July, September. There's a lot of integrations that have to happen because the other position was eliminated. And honestly, between my role and his role and Ms. Joyner's role, we've been trying to figure it out. When that position was eliminated, that was one of our integrations.
Okay,
Script for this students.
so if we were to stop the contract with School Links, though, it sounds like because the integration might take through September, we might not have anything in place.
Correct.
Okay.
And do a board, what we usually do, you guys do at the board meeting. Caveat, make sure that this is not a multi-year contract, that it only goes year to year until CGI is up and running. And revisit it next spring and see where we are at.
Okay. Well, sounds like we have to do it since we have not finished the process in CGI. Obviously, our mandate is to find contracts to cut for next year. But I think that my interest would be that this next year would be the last year for School Links. I'll just be clear, I was gonna vote to cut it. But I think because of the lack of integration, we have to have something. But I think that we gotta be clear because of Ariel's point with community and staff, that next year most likely will be the last year. I don't think, I don't want to speak for you, but I think that it's important to remember we're all managing different priorities. I think that every dollar right now is essential. Yesterday, we met with the Kennedy staff to talk about, the impact of cutting any NTE from that school and what that will do to students, right? So I think we all have different lenses of the challenges of other priorities. And I think that I'm at a point right now where anything that we must not have, I think we have to cut. So we have to keep that in mind moving forward, that anything that is nice to have, for even if it's good, we have to be really thoughtful about it because we're cutting teachers, staff, right? We're cutting positions that are also helping students. So I say this in general for all cabinet members coming next, that I think that moving forward, I'm gonna have a very strict perspective of all of our contracts of what is absolutely needed and what is a nice, easier thing that makes our jobs a little bit easier. I say we retain it for another year at least, until we are able to communicate better with CCGI. What do you think?
I agree. I think, my perspective on this was to support the action to eliminate this contract. but knowing that we would also need something to be able to fall back on. Knowing that that's not possible, I truly believe that we need to stay away from things that potentially are reoccurring. Like these contracts, right? Like bringing in these contracts, I think year to year without having end vision of when we can actually hold this work on our own and start preparing our staff to be able to carry that load. So I agree with you on this, and I guess we support keeping it for a year and revisiting this item next year, and hopefully we'll be able to get staff on this and make this a priority to be able to make that transition more seamless when this contract is gone.
So Spritzer and Khan, I think that if you could, in your own personal notes, if you could just write it down as something that you will probably have to talk to your staff about the transition and ensuring that we have CCGI up and running, you know, by the end of next year. I think that'll be really important.
So yes, and I think that there are capabilities within CCGI that are not in place right now. So it's not necessarily an issue of what we're doing, but it's also what that program is able to offer. I think that coming back, so yes, I can talk to my staff about kind of what that transition will look like. But we need to continue to monitor and update the board and community on where things stand with CCGI, because there's no guarantee that it's going to be ready, up and ready and doing exactly what we need it to do next spring either. And so yes, we need to be in communication about all of these things at the same time. So thank you.
Okay, I forgot to ask for our labor partners to vote. I apologize. So keep it or eliminate it. UTR is key.
Trust.
No, or the.
Or the 1 year.
Yeah, and here,
With efforts to make sure that they're starting the configuration so that everything.
Necessary. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. It was everybody in agreement, SSA neutral. Okay, I think you guys have two more or one more. Jessica, I think you guys have one left.
Oh, did we not do this last time?
We discussed it, I don't think we've married.
Oh, okay. If you guys just want to vote on it,
I don't even remember what it is, so if you could remind us.
whatever you. Ariel, you still there?
I'm here.
Do you want to speak to the Center for Youth Development?
Oh, sure. Center for Youth Development through law is a contract that we pay for with our Law Academy fund. So our 11 California Partnership Academies each receive up to $81,000 annually to run the academy model. Those grant funds are required to be spent on things like materials and supplies, contracts, field trips, things like that to support the academy work. This contract is paid for out of those grant funds for our two law academies at Richmond High and De Anza High. They bring in retired lawyers and judges to mentor students and run the mock trial team after school. They also supply, or rather run an internship program during the summer that our students are eligible to apply to.
Any questions? No? Any discussion on this? Spread then caught anything on this item?
I'm trying to unmute, sorry. No, I think that it is a long-standing contract. It is supportive of our Law Academy, which is one of our most successful academies at De Anza and within our district. I fully support it.
Thank you. You have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, Jessica or Ariel, is this also Richmond High, not just, yeah,
Yeah, they're Richmond High. They're both our high schools with the lock.
is that the two contracts, one's for one site, one's for the other?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same amount for each. It's essentially like they say, here's what we charge to do this. And then we use Richmond High's Law Academy grant to pay for their side of it and Danza High's to pay for theirs.
And the CC leads, just so you guys know, they budget their $81,000, but they decide this is where the contract on us. They'll say, yep, that's what we want to do for junior mentoring, right? We should approve it, and that's definitely one of the high quality elements of the high quality system for mentoring, and it's required.
Thank you. Okay, let's move to a vote. Say yes. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay, unanimous. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
You're off the hot seat. Thank you. Ariel, thank you.
Thank you all. I appreciate the robust
We're gonna follow
Okay, wonderful. Mr. Carter, we're moving
We're
to,
gonna move on to Title IX. They have one contract, and Jose is here to represent Title IX department and when they're using plus office.
Hi, everyone. Our department is the Office of Education Equity, Title IX department. We investigate cases of sexual harassment followed by students, employees, and staff members and community members. The role of our office also expanded to include the Office of the Ombudsperson. My role as the Title IX director also serves as the district's ombudsperson. The ombudsperson was created by the district's board members. When it was determined that there were problematic issues faced by parents, teachers, and other board members and community in the effort to provide informal and alternative measures to discuss or resolve their feelings. It was determined that this was a good resource for people who were uncertain on how to proceed or unaware of how to obtain information in regards to resolving their concerns. Our department uses attorney fees for complaints involving employees that retain attorneys, complaints involving students that retain attorneys, appeals received from the California Department of Education regarding complaints from students, appeals received from OCR regarding complaints from students, complaints received from the Civil Rights Department regarding complaints from employees. Our office also reviews administrative regulations and board policies during the monitoring audit from the California Department of Education, and we use attorney fees to make sure we're in compliance with state and federal laws. When the district receives California Public Records Act requests that fall under our department, our office will also use attorneys. When required to provide support during board meetings, our department will also use attorneys. So those are all different times that our office would use attorneys, and then we use the law firm as on us.
thank you. Mr. Carter, would we be able to put this on the Zoom screen? Our first. Thank you. Okay, questions? Shannon, sorry.
Specific sections, because I'm spending a lot of, investigations. And oftentimes, the title, some about the Title IX, I get someone for whatever reason. It is always outsourced to the attorneys. And sometimes I don't even know why. I'm like, why are we utilizing attorneys for this case when we have a Title IX department that should be ultimately managing it? This has been a question that's been coming up for years. I may see the Title IX department out of all the investigations that I sit in, and I sit in a lot, maybe once. I often see the reports come from the law firm. Not even once, so I would really like to have a really in-depth conversation around this, because this has been a problematic for Teamsters for a long time. Just seeing the funding and how the attorneys are being utilized and investigations that probably should be handled at the site. I'm just gonna be fairly honest. So, yeah, that's a statement, not necessarily a question. Because I would really like to know how many investigations is the Title IX physically doing versus how many are being outsourced to the attorneys, like a number, like a, you know, what's actually being outsourced, because I'm honestly, I never, I'm always with an attorney, always.
Thank you for that. So, you know, let's, let me turn that into a question. So, share the, sorry, Mr. Espinosa, does your office direct sites to investigate things, or do you just turn it directly to a lawyer whenever there's a complaint?
Yes, so depending on the complaint that our office receives, we'll work with the school site depending on what the concerns are. If it's something that the site can manage, we'll direct them to investigate and we'll assist during that process, if it can be investigated at a site level. If it involves a personnel with a student involved, then that's when our office will be more involved, will investigate if the site can't conduct it. Also depends on the severity of the complaint. Depending on the severity of the complaint, our office would be involved. Also, if it's a classified employee, depending on the severity of the case, that's when we'll determine if this is legal to provide support. Also, if the classified employee or other employees, if they're teachers, if they retain an attorney on their end, or if the union provides an attorney on their end to provide them with support, the district practice is to also retain an attorney.
So do you have like a document that specifically says if a complaint is this, we assign an attorney, if a complaint is this, HR handles the investigation? Or is it more of you and your office's perspective of like, okay, in this case, we're gonna send it to legal?
It depends on the severity, so we'll look at the scale, determine, okay, is this an inappropriate comment? We're not gonna get an attorney to investigate an inappropriate comment. If the employee ends up getting an attorney in regards to inappropriate comments that they made to students that were sex-based or sexual harassment, then again, our department and the district will retain an attorney because the employee retain an attorney. Depending on the severity of the complaints, will then determine, okay, it's time to get an attorney depending on who they're involving.
Okay, so my experience is that I have never had a district trigger legal support if I, as a union leader, give a member a lawyer. So I'm surprised you say that, because not every case should be investigated by a lawyer just because that person has a contract with a lawyer. I understand, obviously, we're trying to be protective of the district, but it's the first district that I've heard say that. I have never worked in Oakland or San Francisco, so I don't know if it's a larger district issue, but I work in 8 districts right now. I'm Mr. Mitchell's position, right? And those places. And I have never seen them, we're not giving a lawyer, them saying, okay, we're gonna now turn to a lawyer. Where HR continues, or the Title IX office continues to handle the investigation and situation unless they need a lawyer, right? Or to that level. So I would like for us to discuss that further, because I think that we are overutilizing lawyers in the department, in my opinion. I moved straight into discussion as well, so I apologize, as you can, so I'm gonna stop there and then we'll continue the discussion, but Justin.
I just want to say, we agree with Shanae. I've been a little surprised as I came back about how often we're seeing these attorneys and the level of the complaints. just didn't seem to rise to a level where they would be necessary. I haven't seen Jose back, or anyone from his office. Nice to see you. But I've seen the attorney many times already, and I've been surprised that it's being outsourced. And so I totally agree with that.
And I'm just gonna say, we don't retain our attorneys for, questions. And that's what I'm saying in addition, question, just the surface of questioning. It's an attorney doing the questioning. I'm like, we wouldn't get our attorneys involved unless there's a work termination, like when we're completely out of the field. But we've never, I mean, I can't speak for those who maybe did it on their own, but most likely our members come to us and they trust us, so. We've never got the legal representation for a food service case.
Uh,
I guess my questions, my kind of wonderings, find some of those questions that are currently going to be addressed in training of folks responsible for conducting investigations. I think I have been in West Contra Costa for 12 years. And certainly when I first came as a new administrator, we would see Title IX office often in our meetings, our management meetings, and that seemed to really be a time where we would get information about how to do certain things. A few superintendents back, that wasn't necessarily, that ceased to happen with the regularity that it had been occurring previously. So I'm wondering how much of the cost could be mitigated or eliminated through training of our, I don't understand what folks are responsible for conducting investigation. Not trying to put anything else on plates, but it isn't the job to take yourself. I don't know what to say, but that's just kind of a wondering.
Yeah, so for trainings, sometimes the district has to provide Title IX training to all employees within the district, and those have to be retained by an attorney, as they have to be a certain amount of duration because of Title IX regulations. So sometimes those have to be by attorneys conducting those meetings. They have to provide a certification in order for them to state the district has provided this training. Those are federal requirements. Our department tries to provide enough training to the sites. We have training on unit. Whenever there's questions, we try to assist them. What we're seeing within our department, and again, our department is only 3 people. We have our administrative secretary, we have 1 investigator, and we have myself, the director. A lot of times we receive complaints that are being directed to us, and simply because they're saying there's a sexual harassment. It could be an inappropriate comment, and then they want our office to investigate. There's a lot of times they'll say, oh, I can't do this. So during that time, we'll provide guidance. We'll provide them with interview questions. We'll provide them with support. We'll even go out and interview the students. So there's a lot of times that we go out and provide support. In certain situations, that's when we'll use attorneys, or it's when there are more severe cases, not more minimal. During those cases, we try to minimize the amount of attorney costs because we realize how much that is costing the district. We try to prevent that. Right now, because of AI, we're seeing an increase in attorneys for the forwarding of complaints to federal agencies, state agencies, because of the AI is advising them to submit their complaint to these individuals. When we receive a complaint, now the district is being sued in regards to the complaint. That complaint then comes to us. Well, what did the Title IX department? Who investigated the complaint? How did you resolve the complaint? Did you contact law enforcement? Did you contact the unions? to the unions, support their employees? Did you notify the employees? So there's a lot of different perspectives into this. Also with the Title IX regulations, there's different processes that the Title IX director can only do. And we have to have specific individuals conducting certain roles. And our department isn't big enough sometimes to be an investigator during an investigation. So that's why we have to outsource if it falls within the jurisdiction of Title IX. If it doesn't, then we'll investigate it under the Uniform Complaint Procedure. So there's different processes that we take. We have several policies that we're investigating complaints under, which is the Title IX, the UCP, the 4030, 13.1, complaints concerning district personnel. So there's different procedures that we try to take, and we try to address it at the lowest level possible at the site level. Sometimes we're seeing that individuals aren't wanting their site to investigate it because they're being biased. So then they'll come to our department because we're an unbiased department. We are trying to provide support to every individual. And they see that, they come to us with questions on how to address their concerns or how to move forward with their concerns. And then that's when we'll provide them with assistance.
Thank you for that. Superintendent Khan, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, I was checking that you're still there.
Actually, I'm on campus. I'm heading over to the building right now.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well then I'll wait for you. I'm gonna turn back to Mr. Espinosa. I have another question for him. Thank you. So when do you outsource your investigations to HR? I feel like what I've seen the last few years is that there has been an outsourcing from the sites and HR to you and your department, right? When a lot of these investigations, like my experience when I was a leader was that Superintendent Collin at his primary position, handled a lot of the investigation that I've seen now in your office too. So at what point do you say like, no, this is an HR investigation, or you know, like this is something that should be in HR, and then they support, you know, through side support. And I forgot your question, Christine, but I want to ask Superintendent Collin when she gets here about that support, but I don't want to. So what point do you do that?
Yeah, so if it doesn't fall within sexual harassment, then that's when we'll work with human resources and we'll direct those complaints to them as a personnel matter. When it involves sexual harassment, then that's when HR will provide it to our office. Or if we receive it from an employee or a student, and when an employee is harming a student, then that's when the student will come to us. This employee is harming me. Okay, how can we help you? We inform human resources immediately. But because the conduct is sexual harassment, then it falls within our department. We continue with that investigation. Depending on what the harm is, then that's when we'll advise an attorney to make sure that the investigation is going the route it needs to based on the conduct. And if there is a lawsuit later, the district is covered, and we are protecting the student during that process. If there is harm to a student and we determine that there's a reason severity, we're not going to use an attorney for it. I try to be considerate of those, of contacting them. So there's specific situations. We'll also, when we receive complaints, if we understand that the complaint isn't in regards to something that our department is responsible for, we'll direct it to resources, we'll direct it to the executive directors or the site level administration for them to investigate.
So your department will only investigate and take it on if it's specifically sexual harassment or a protected class complaint. But a uniform complaint, you refer them all to HR?
No, we investigate cases of Title IX, sexual harassment, UCPs, uniform complaint procedures. If they're racial discrimination and the individual believes that human resources is being biased against them, then that would fall under our department, the Office of the Budget. Then we.
What makes an employee able to tell us your department is biased, so we don't want them to do an investigation? I mean, our human resources, right? So shouldn't we push back? Sorry, maybe this must be question, right? Sorry, I'm putting you in the hot seat, but shouldn't we push back and say like our human resource departments and human resource department, they're also supposed to be unbiased, right? Like, I could understand to some extent perhaps a site admin if a complaint was against them or if they were participated in the incident. To some extent, they're supposed to be unbiased as well, but why do we say, okay, fine, I'll give it to the Title IX instead of HR has to do this? Sorry, just for my own understanding.
Yeah, so those are questions I ask and we get more in depth at the preliminary intake interview or an additional interview to gather additional information and determine, okay, well, what conduct are they making? Or how are they making you feel? They say they're not making me feel comfortable, they're not listening to what I'm telling them, and I've told them multiple times, okay, there's a pattern, so how are we gonna assist them? There's complaints I received that parents believe that the principal isn't able or capable of assisting them through the investigation or providing supportive measures that are sufficient to end the harassment. So then they say, I don't want the site administrator to investigate this anymore. I want your department to investigate it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Hi, welcome. Oh, yeah, sorry, but before we move on, sorry.
What percentage of the physical history or physical capacity, how does that operate?
Not sure the percentage, but they're working to that. But we have a large amount of cases, and I would say we don't outsource. Not even half. Yeah, there's several cases, but it has. I can't put a percentage on it, maybe 25%, 20%, things like that, but a lot of these cases, they're being addressed at the site level, but there's several cases I can see. Oh, many.
Hi. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see.
I don't know where we are in the process.
You were just all asking questions.
Okay,
We were supposed
so-
to go at the end and I jumped in, so I apologize.
Well, we were at the end and then it.
Yeah. Did you both have questions? No? Mark, did you have questions?
I think I'll wait till discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to bring up some data. So in 2023, 2024, our office, which includes Title IX and Ombudsman, which we address cases of Title IX, place concerning district personnel, Williams complaints will also get directed to us, but we'll work with facilities department or human resources to address UCPs and also complaints that don't fall under any of those scopes. We see about 340 cases during 2024. During 24-25 school year, we saw about 382. Of those 382 cases for last year, some of those cases don't just have one allegation, they can have multiple allegations. So within those 382, we had about 591 allegations of some harassment. That could be inappropriate student conduct, including cyber harassment or physical verbal bullying. So that can be multiple allegations within one complaint, and we have to investigate those. It could sometimes be one allegation, or it could be three, or it could be 5 or 6, you know, so depending on how much allegations they have to interview multiple individuals. We have to interview staff, students, contractors, if we're working with vendors. So there's a lot of individuals and a lot of time takes to conduct an investigation and a thorough investigation. Because whenever we conduct an investigation, we also have to create a findings letter. In that findings letter, we have to provide our investigation findings, what led to the outcome of that investigation, the support measures that we have to provide. We have to provide them with their appeal rights if they appeal to the California Department of Education or the Office of Civil Rights. If they do that, then the complaint goes to the board, or then we have to work with CRCE in regards to that.
I have just one more follow-up question. Is it practice that, okay, you have to, retain an attorney, but is it the practice that the attorney does the investigation, the interviewing process first? Or should Title IX be doing an interview process first, just to kind of assess what the situation's gonna be? And then if it becomes complex, it's outsourced to the attorneys, because what I'm seeing is it's straight to the attorneys. And then, so they're doing the interview, then they come up with the findings, they send the report, and then the district just issue the report. So I would think, of course, there's necessary to have attorneys, right? But they shouldn't be, I would think that the first initial interview would come from the Title IX department and let that part play out first. That's just so I guess my question is, sorry, is it practice to have them just do the full complete investigation when you decide that you're gonna outsource it to the attorney to manage?
Yeah, the attorney will not contact the employee directly, unless we direct them and we conduct the preliminary investigation. So that can be us talking to the complainant, the individual that's submitting the complaint. They give us the information, then we analyze it, what's the severity scale? What complaint are they submitting? Then we'll try to gather additional information by communicating with the principal. We'll try to gather additional information regarding how was the complaint possibly addressed at the site level first, and then from there we'll start determining, okay, does this need an attorney? But not all cases get attorneys.
Right.
Very little cases out of the whole amount get attorneys, but then that would be, then we will assign an attorney to the case and then advise them what are our next steps, which we kind of already have an idea. Then if they determine that they need to conduct an investigation, they'll conduct it. We'll do all the work in regards to contacting individuals, notifying them, providing them with notices. Then the attorneys will provide us with documentation. We'll send it out. If they need to conduct an additional interview with witnesses, we'll coordinate that with the site, and then the attorney will come and interview them.
Yeah. So I'm trying to understand this. So what you're saying is, because I know I've heard you say various things. I heard you say, you know, we are a small department. I also heard you say, you know, we figure out when we want to elevate some of these things to an attorney. I also heard you say there's certain things that not everyone in our department can investigate. So is this a way of contracting out to bring in those resources to support the department in doing some of these investigations versus doing it in-house? Because not every investigation can be done by your department. I mean, by others in your department, right? Department of Three, I assume you're probably the only one to do some of this, you know, investigating. So is this kind of the support mechanism that we're bringing on, kind of support your role in part of that investigation with the support of the department, having them coordinate some of the stuff that they're able to handle?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So whenever it falls under Title IX, there has to be specific goals. The Title IX coordinator can only provide certain support to individuals, to the complainant respondent during the case. I cannot investigate those cases. Then we have the investigator who can investigate. During certain times, they are also the decision maker, but during certain times, the decision maker also not be the investigator. during certain situations, we have to determine who's gonna be the decision maker, who's gonna be the individual investigator, the decision maker, the informal resolution officer. So we have to see who we. Sometimes we can work with human resources with Dr. Greenwood in order to be an appeals officer. We have to have a different individual for that. So all these positions have to be different. And certain situations we can use the same individual, but attorneys may suggest we suggest for you to use a different individual or use a third party investigator for these cases.
I heard you talk about Williams complaints. Do you handle all Williams?
No, we work with the facilities department and we provide Williams complaints to state and federal.
State and federal.
And then if there regards to teacher vacancies, we'll work with human resources. But all complaints typically get directed to our office, then we'll have to determine what those complaints are. What are they alleging? Then we'll work with those departments to try to have them address that.
Is this a matter of there not being enough personnel in the Title IX office? Hearing the responsibilities and that one person cannot necessarily hold multiple roles in the investigation. And Trustee Gonzalez was, you know, when I was here, then Director of HR Cotton handled a lot of the investigations at that time. And you know, I know people have become more litigious just as a matter of course, right? This is where we live. So I'm wondering, would more personnel in the Title IX office and working between Title IX and HR and facilities or whichever other department might find yourself needing to work with, might again mitigate the need for the attorney to conduct the investigation. I'm not trying to oversimplify what we do, I'm just kind of.
Right, it would be helpful because the amount of cases, also when we have reached the amount of caseload that we can take, sometimes we'll say we cannot investigate these cases. These are very severe cases and we're on a timeline. The timeline based on these, according to board policy, they need to be investigated at times within 60 days. Sometimes taking longer if you don't have capacity. I can, again, if it doesn't fall under timeline, I can investigate it. Sometimes we'll do that for the UCP investigations. The timeline investigator, timeline case specialist will investigate those cases. Then we'll work with the school side. We've asked before for another individual, for another investigator. We haven't received it. It's a funding. I think that will help support our office. I think we will be able to provide more support all around and be more efficient. Right now, we have a lot of cases.
To feedback on a question that President Bella asked was, or she asked, what percentage do you think you are outsourcing to the law firm? My kind of follow-up question to that is, you think I'll be speculative. What do you think, what percentage might you have to outsource? Like if you think it's around 20-25%, if you had another person, what might that do in terms of? Because if it doesn't change anything, then.
I think Yeah, I would still be using the attorneys for the cases that we're using, because those are the higher priority cases. And a lot of times one case can also take, yeah, well, not multiple allegations, but depending on who they're contacting. They can contact multiple agencies, they can appeal it several times, they can then request to go to the board, they can request for additional actions to be taken, and one case can be pretty expensive. Maybe it could be 100,000 for one case, or one case can be 10,000 or 5,000. No, it depends on how complicated one can be. So it also varies depending on the outside agencies that are involved. Then the district, and regardless of us using the attorneys in the district, can still get sued in regards to those cases. Then we have to work with attorneys in order to address the lawsuit.
Yeah, that's be a bargain. If it's like, I'm just, if one case can cost up to, the total amount right now is 300,000, if one case could cost 100,000 and there's no other way around that, then 350,000 is a bargain, relatively speaking to the severity of the case. Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Following up on that, thank you for asking the question. When it comes to investigations around the uniform complaint process, I'm hearing, of course, we have to outsource if there's like a high case, right? Like sexual harassment, sexual assault, of course. But I've also seen us investigate things that, in my opinion, fall in the purview of HR. Has that been because we are just having to look at so many cases that we just simply have to outsource some of these investigations? Or is it because, help me understand that, please. I mean, apart from the big cases that I understand, of course, like some of the other ones where have come to the board as a result, or like to missionaries, point, like are just being outsourced. Like, why is that happening? Is it just overwhelmed? I mean, 382 cases a lot, so is that why?
Or if we receive a lower case, regardless of us being overwhelmed, that's not gonna get outsourced. If we can address it inside, we're gonna address it regardless if we're overwhelmed. And I will say, we are overwhelmed, but we're getting through and we're addressing every single complaint that we're getting. We're working with the appropriate executive director, site administration, and we're addressing those concerns. Again, the cases that can be addressed at the site level, those are not going to attorneys. I'm not saying, hey, please help us investigate these lower level cases. That's not the case.
So we're not turning anything over to the attorneys because of the volume of cases. We're turning things over to the attorneys based on the level or the type of complaint that would require legal support. So it's not it's not kind of willy-nilly, it is, you're sending things that need to be reviewed. I would also say with changes to Title IX in particular, over the past few years with the changes to federal administration, statute has changed drastically. And then changed again, and then changed again. And so ensuring that we are in line with the law is another reason why I think it's important for us to maintain those contracts and those relationships with our attorneys. But it is I'm very happy to hear that, no, we're not just turning this over to kind of be a stopgap for support. We're turning things over that require that with the support. I saw Shanae was about to say something, and then she like physically put her hand down.
I got the tape on screen. I've been trying to control all that.
Today is Good Friday.
I beg to differ. I sit in these investigations, and it may be coming from human resources, it may be coming from Title IX, but there is a concern, with all rules of law. And I've said, and there is no need for an attorney. I sit in these all the time, and So I am concerned that things are being shifted. It could be because of the work, you know, when I say that, overwhelmed, maybe a lot of cases coming in, just don't have and we have been told now by Title IX, by the like the resources, we're outsourcing it, they just didn't have time to do it. So I don't think that's a good enough excuse. I mean, you have a UD that can do investigations. There's multiple layers of people and police directors that can do these investigations. But instead, they just pile them off to the attorneys.
I think HR is not today, and so.
No,
we'll be
and I
going over those
understand, but I'm
contracts.
I'm making just
A general statement, I understand that. Yeah, I just feel like, in this instance with Title IX, I think it is a little bit different. And Title IX does touch, and that's one statute that touches both our staff as well as our students.
Right.
And so managing, you know, parent complaints along with staff complaints along, you know, student to staff, staff to student, student to, you know, student, parent to student to staff to, they are managing all of those. And I think that it does get a little bit more confusing and convoluted, but specifically for Title IX, I think they're on track.
Okay, no, I'll wait till Carlos.
And then I'll add to, what you were discussing about human resources and, our office, do we work with them? Yes, we work with human resources, but human resources also has their legal firm that they work with. And our department separate from human resources. We are housed under human resources, but we are independent. We work with our legal firm.
Okay, well, then let's move to discussion then. Anyone like this thing? Go ahead.
So, prior to being here, I was the executive director at Orange County Public Schools, the ninth largest district in the United States. They had a Title IX office. They didn't use any court. Then I worked at 15 locals in California. My previous assignment, there was no Title IX staff, and they didn't use lawyers. It was very significant allocation. Since I came here in 2022, I didn't know there was a Title IX office until last year. So the existence of the Title IX office is not something that even, you know, I'm the person that every single teacher under investigation has to go to get a lawyer. And I assess whether it's appropriate or an order. I've never heard of the Title IX office until last year. In my experience, every single allegation in this district, except the most minor, until Dr. Greenwood has changed practice, has been dealt with outside lawyers, including the Title IX investigations. I'm not aware of any Title IX investigation handled by any staff employed by the district. I'm aware that it was a question one member of mine at one time, 5 years that have been here. So the Title IX process is used as a second shot by disgruntled staff. Don't get a result in the HR forum, and then they'll allege, you know, tweak the allegation, have it sent over to Title IX, and then get a lawyer assigned by the district to then dig in further on an allegation that's already been deemed not sustained. And the lawyers have, in my experience, free reign to go as deep as they want, and then go back 4 years from the time that they're doing the interviews. And the reports they write are enormous, voluminous, very costly. And they're things that, you know, 90% of the time can be handled by lay people or the science. There's, I'm not aware of any UTR member that's gone to the Title IX office that's found any relief or gotten a result that was helpful. Also on the Williams complaint piece, you know, we had a campaign to file Williams complaints around a number of issues, 22-23 school year and 24, I think almost 100, and none of them were responded to. So the Williams complaint process, if it's part of this office, is not working. I would just say that these contracts need to be reduced to something minimal, and that the school board should be reviewing anything above a very de minimis amount. Because the staff is just outsourcing their work. And it is very frustrating for reducing services to students and educators and classified to see that there's no control of the costs that are being sent out the door for this kind of stuff. It's very frustrating. And it really hurts morale.
And another thing I would like to add. It even can use it in the investigation process. The attorneys, they're not here. They don't work with the students. They don't work with the staff. They don't know the dynamic of the district. And everything is just so cut and dry. They don't have a relationship with anyone to be able to really make that full-on determination. Which then costs more money because then, then I'm going to get our attorneys because I feel like, the just due process was not complete. So I just kind of wanted to just put that out for you.
Yeah, so just to, put in light there, one thing. I have not come across a district retained lawyer, that has been helpful or has done anything like super productive other than Roy. That's not a fuck for Roy. We've dealt with so many different lawyers, and Title IX will outsource lawyers, and then HR will outsource to different lawyers. The thing that could be done, whether it's in-house, and the primary objective is to rack up billable hours for lawyers. We've seen that at the arbitration where they come unprepared. Seen them at the appeals court where it's like one person from loss prevention or something. It's not a good use of our funds, and in a time where we're cutting staff, cutting programs, this is not a worthy investment that we need to be keeping.
I'm actually going to disagree. And I think it is, while it is a complex issue, it is not necessarily complicated. I think we live in a time where people do see attorneys as a means to an end. This is how I can get what I'm looking for. This is the time that we are living in. We've seen this play out on a much larger scale than our little micro district. People are litigious. They use attorneys. Now, I don't know if every single thing that's coming through the Title IX office needs to be sent to a lawyer. But I do know that if we mean what we say, when we talk about equity, we do need a Title IX office because we do need somebody to make sure that the historically underserved students have representation legally. When you said that also civil rights, I was like, there's also civil rights even open. I mean, there are lots of things that are going on. So I believe that we do need something. I am not an expert. I am not an attorney. And I do know that while I may feel a particular way, that may not be the law, right? So how we feel doesn't necessarily enter into the conversation when we are dealing with legal statute, et cetera. I think I'm gonna go back to, we do need something. I don't know how much that something should cost. I do believe that we should do a better job in preparing people. We talked about different layers of investment, who would be conducting the investigation or where should those investigations start? Maybe we need to look at kind of a training beyond the Keenan training so that our site administrators or directors or executive directors actually feel comfortable handling those investigations. Perhaps then we would not see this number where it is. But then the other side of that is, this might be a small number. This might be a small number in comparison to what it should be. So I don't know, again, it's more complex. I think it's more nuanced than actually we can get to. It's not complicated, however. So I just think we need to, without throwing out the baby with the bathwater, I think we need to look at other things. And then, like all problems of practice, do some data gathering. Once we try something different, then we can come back.
Thanks for that. Justin, and then I'll move to this with that.
I'll just say, I'm in alignment, with Teamsters and UTR on this. I mean, it does seem that too routinely it's being delegated to the attorneys. Things that could be handled in-house, it should be, and if the staffing isn't available, then that needs to be looked at. Does this make sense that there needs to be some legal resource available for those particularly complex cases? Absolutely, but in my experience so far, being back, it's at a much greater level where the team allocated, so the team is becoming routine that basically any allocation, you know. And I agree they're producing massive reports that take a lot of time and a lot of money to put together. And it's like, this could have potentially been a conversation at the site level. And it doesn't really build back any trust or any so, yeah, just wanted to state that I'm more in line with that.
We'll go to Jose and then, spin that on.
So I have a comment in regards to other districts having a Title IX department and it not needing attorneys or them being in compliance. Whereas our district is using attorneys. I will say I have done research with other districts, and there are a lot of districts that aren't in compliance with Title IX regulations because they're not posting the appropriate policies or they are not posting the appropriate information, not posting notices. Our district is doing that. Our district is in compliance. We have the appropriate employee policies, we have the appropriate student policies. So we're providing notices to everyone. We also have the contact information within the Keenan training that all employees are taking. We have all notices within every district building. So everyone should know who the Title IX coordinator is and where they can contact our office. In regards to and in regards to attorneys being used for all Title IX cases, I also want to make clear that Title IX is specifically in regards to sexual harassment. We sometimes get cases where individuals are claiming Title IX and it's not Title IX. There are sometimes stating it's racial discrimination. Racial discrimination does not fall under Title IX, but then individuals believe it is, and then there might be an investigation, but it's not through our office. Sometimes it's through a different department. So if there might be certain situations.
So then, do you have any thoughts?
I think I've already shared mine. This is a broad department that supports both staff and students and families in this case. I do think that $350,000 to cover and ensure that the district is meeting A, our obligations, and B, ensuring that we are not, that I think it helps to minimize larger legal fees if we are sued in a variety of areas, which, because of the nature of this department, that is up to me. I do think that, again, for specifically Title IX, there have been some major changes to the laws over recent years that have continued to change. And also sets up, as Kristen shared, vulnerabilities for our students that we need to be mindful of and be able to protect as well. I'm in support of these contracts with Lozano Smith. And look forward to just continued conversations about how we're supporting what the possibility of an investigator, an additional investigator in the Title IX office, what that could look like. I saw Jeff move over there, not nervous, but, but to be mindful of that.
Okay, well, let's, you can go first, but
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I know we're not talking about HR today, but I understand that they have a legal contract as well, I think, same firm.
and a couple.
It's a couple of firms, but
Okay. Okay.
I think most of us here have listened well with that piece of it, but I think it's the increases up here that are the challenge, and I'm not arguing we don't need something to reference back on. I would like to see a significant decrease in the cost. And obviously, we had to increase before, like, if it's necessary at a later date time, bring it back for increase, but significantly increase this contract. And retrain. That's what we need to do is retrain. I'm looking at it as listening to what Jose has said, listening to what our fellow community leaders have said. Training does seem to be an issue amongst staff. And I agree that we need to have people trained on how to handle the basics. Can we handle every situation? No, but I do believe we need to be trained better on how to handle situations and how that can come into play. So you can't tell me that there's not something out there to help us get some better training. Have we asked our union leads if they have some training out there that could help us out with it and to conduct better training within our groups with the district to make sure that our people understand first steps. I haven't been asked. So I think that would be our first step. And I do think that would be it.
Thank you, Kim. Jeff, did you,
Yeah, just to talk about kind of the history of it. So 2 years ago, the legal fees were about 380. Last year, they were about 280. And so we budgeted 250 for the cases this year on a hope that we would have less students. Not every case costs the same amount, and so it's hard to kind of project for that. I just don't want to budget lower on a hope and show that we, meet our balance, and then at first interim or second interim come back and have to increase it, and then increase our whole. So we're making decisions now on a hope that we spend less, and then halfway through the year say, well, now we have to find more.
I could argue the same that we're doing that in the classroom with giving lower FTE in school sites. That we have a hope that they will fill all those classes, but you budget so that we don't have the room to fill those classes.
Depending on the number of students to show up, but it's similar depending on how many cases we have next year. If one case.
So either way, if we need to increase, then we will revisit, we will get it at that point for both. The contract.
Sure, but if more students showed up, we would have more revenue. To offset some of that, whereas the number of cases, we have a history of a lot of cases. I just don't wanna cut a contract to the point where we're just hoping we have less cases.
let's move to the president and then I have some comments.
I think my comment is that I want to echo a lot of what was said by our union leaders. I also am hesitant just because I know that we need to cover ourselves. But my concern, I have many concerns. So my concerns are the training part, like are we capacitating our staff to be able to handle some of these things site-wide, right? My concerns are we giving people the option to dictate when it should be brought to the office? They're saying if someone feels that site-wise they're not capable of, or I don't feel comfortable, a comfort level is enough to trigger that, let's go here now. So I think we have to redirect people to like, this is the process, this is the system that we're following and adhere to it. Because I think if you're always gonna open yourself up to being an option, you're always gonna be that option, because if I'm here, that means it wasn't working anywhere else. So just really ensuring that we have that knowledge base, that step to follow, so that the office is not taking on board that they need to. And like I said, with the budget part, I understand where Jeff is going with this, but I also, believe that once you give people free range, it kind of gives us that room for like, hey, we're still under this umbrella, right? Like, we could still move this way because we have room to move. And I think if more staff is leaving, that we have to revisit that to be able to see how we can support this office versus historically moving in the direction of we're always outsourcing to cover ourselves or not building up the district proportionally to be able to serve the community. And that means the community is the staff, our students, because bringing people in to cover what can be done in-house seems like something that we're doing really constantly. Like, we're just bringing you in because it's a cost saving, but I think we're never gonna build ourselves up to a place of independence if we keep outsourcing. That's it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I wanna start just by appreciating your department, Jose. I think that it absolutely is necessary. I agree with Christine. Like, I think that this department was started because there was an equity issue in this district when it came to complaints and investigations, especially towards, African American, Latino students and families and staff. So I absolutely agree on the importance and the necessity to have someone with that perspective, including when it comes to our policies, right? Your office does a lot deeper work than just complaints, right? When it comes to equity. So I want to start with that, and absolutely, support, the continued support of your department, and the work that you do. I think that, I also agree, we have moved to a place where we are getting more lawsuits, we are getting more complaints, we are getting more litigation, right? In part because the state has opened up more structures to do that and has sometimes increased law language, for good reasons, right? When it came to people who need that, but then it also has opened us up as a system for more liability, right? Which has increased our legal fees. And I think that the change of staffing that I've seen in the last 6 years, or maybe a little bit more, has also led to us needing to invest more in legal fees because we have not kept people who have the expertise to do a lot of the work that needs to occur. And I say this in every department, that we are over, what's the word I'm looking for? Over relying on legal, right? I went back to Superintendent Khan, like, I feel like back in the day when I was at reading UTR, like, I would go to her for all the investigations, really, when it came to human resources, right? So I think that conversation gotta be really interesting once we have HR here. But like, I do feel like, unfortunately, like, at the time, Director Khan had so much experience and work doing that, right? We would, sit and complain and pull hairs right around every complaint that come forward, but it would happen, right? I think that we have, your department, Mr. Espinosa, is, I think, very small. I think it is overwhelmed. I don't know if the number and specific issues like Williams complaints need to go to the department, right? I think that there has to be a little more training and look at specifically why are we over relying on having to over rely on legal. I agree with the president. I feel like we need to move to a place where like we're just constantly reducing, that's our goal, reducing the reliance on legal. I think that we have to reduce every place we can this need for legal fees. I would love to see from you, Mr. Espinosa, a breakdown, and this probably won't sound like we have to be on for the board, but for the board, a breakdown from Lozano Smith about every case they're having to take over and the detail of it so that we know, okay, like this is everything we're outsourcing to Lasana Smith and firms for investigation. I think it would be really good for me to see that, just for accountability purposes. Nick Connor, if that's something you could work through your office, I think that'd be really helpful for us to know. Right, because I think that when we can turn to labor and community and say like, this is something we gotta do, right? Like, we have 100 investigations that happen that do require the severity. So right now, as much as we trust you, Mr. Espinosa, we trust the people in positions of power, right? Like, asking us to trust that, right? Like all these investigations are needed this level, right? So I want to be able to turn around and say, yes, that is money that we have to unfortunately spend in outsourcing. So I would love to see that. I also would like for us to have the goal of reducing Mr. Carter. So my recommendation for today is that we keep it at 250. I think a reduction of 100,000, I think it's a good goal. Especially since that's kind of like what we went over this year. I do think that we have to rely on the expertise of our staff. And if that expertise doesn't exist, we need to talk about like what is necessary to train our principals, to train our directors, to train whoever needs to be in those positions long term. So that would be my recommendation. I mean, not deleting the whole contract because I think we all agree there has to be a level of investigations, but the reduction of what we went over, I think would be a good goal. So I know that's probably hard to hear because you're like, how am I gonna do it? But I think that there has to be a better way for all the departments to communicate, right? For facilities to really take on more of the Williams, for HR to take on more of the staffing issues. So I'll just be frank. I have seen investigations that I have said, why did that go to legal, right? From various departments. I don't have to hear from them. I've seen it myself from the board level, right? So I think that we have to do something different. But I also think we're getting mixed a little bit. So I think Title IX is a nuance. I don't know how much is really your department and how much is HR, right? That is outsourcing where the problem is. I don't know. I'm just putting it out. How do you both feel about that before we move to a vote of asking to eliminate 100,000 instead of the full amount?
I think that's, I'm fine with that in terms of keeping it at the 250. Again, what we found this year is that the choice is that. And so figuring out and working through what measures we can take to try to keep it at the 250 mark, and that we can work those stuff.
What about anyone else? There's, of course, your job is to push back sometimes, so I hope that you feel comfortable also.
Well, I just think that what is being spent needs to be overseen, right? And it needs to be looked at. And my understanding is that this department reports directly to the superintendent. And so, if things need to be spent, they need to be spent. If things go over, they go over. We're over. And Title IX is not the only thing that's over the approved budget, right? There's millions and millions of dollars over budget this year. Applies 20% of 14 million contractors. So that people go over, but if it's merited, fine. But if the superintendent or board are keeping track of this, I think it would be great for morale. And it would make us feel better as working to administer compliance with different laws and things, that we're working together, and we're not just sending money out because people here didn't want to work.
Sorry, Christine, what are you going to say? Okay, we'll go Jose, Christine, and then Francis.
I just did want to make an additional comment. I just want to make sure that when we're discussing Title IX legal fees, we're discussing specifically the Title IX complaints and legal fees that are coming through this department and not in general. Human resources, the executive director, superintendent's office, just here because I think it's necessary. And because we're getting confused of who the specific individual that's conducting that investigation now is being lumped into Title IX. Now our budget may be decreased because of this. Whereas we may or may not see the increase. But I can say that our department is, again, receiving additional complaints because of AI. AI is advising individuals to submit complaints, formal complaints, and they want a formal investigation. And to do that, we need processes, and they are providing specific legal language. They're sending it to OCR CDE. So when that happens, CDE is going to come to our department, and if we don't use legal, then we're going to have a lawsuit, and then we're going to have to deal with that later on.
Christine,
I was just going to say that, like, we have an image problem. I think public school, as an institution, I think we have an image problem. And I think when there isn't trust, I can't remember if you said this, trustee Gonzalez, or if it was board president Ayala, that if we don't trust the people who are conducting the investigation, then we're going to look to outside resources to address it, because that's where we feel we're going to get a more fair response or more fair outcome. So I think part of this is we have an image problem. The other piece is, yes, now we have quote unquote advice that's accessible to anybody. Even though there's a disclaimer, this is not legal advice. As the technology has become more sophisticated and people have greater access, they are going to then utilize those things. So the larger question when we're looking at any of these legal contracts, and it's, again, it's something that's bigger that can be solved in a few Fridays, in April, is how do we address the image problem that we have that the community does not trust? And when I say community, I'm encompassing our employee community, our students and families. How are they going to trust that we are actually acting in their best interests all of the time, when our history has not necessarily supported that idea? And I think until we get to that, which I give this like a soft piece, people don't necessarily want to address that. We always want just the hard data and numbers. But I think until we address how we are perceived and we are actually able to back up the things that we say that we're about and do, we're going to continue to have an image problem. And we are going to continue to be open to litigation, whether that's within our community or outside of our community. So I'm for supporting absolutely the Title IX office, and I think we need to do better in preparing our people to address, and we need to be better in terms of how we work with and present each other.
Yeah, I would propose to cut the budget by the existing 350 to the first line item to 150, and the second one, 50,000.
Sorry, the first one to 150 and then the second one to what?
50,000.
The second was an add-on once we exhausted the 250. That's what was budget.
Yeah, they started at 250, so we did it to your treasury.
Remove the 100 for the 50,000 and you got one.
So you would propose that we eliminate the 100,000, and then on top of that, for the 250, we reduce it again to another 100,000. Could you talk a little bit of the why?
Again, the extensive reports, the use of billable hours, I think is being abused by law.
Okay. Thanks for that. Any additional thoughts? So,
I just had a comment, or earlier we were discussing about possible training. I would like to see possible training come from the union to their employees to provide support in regards to what conduct is appropriate at the workplace. I think that would assist in the district minimizing the amount of complaints, human resources and our office receives. So I think that'll be helpful if we can, get your assistance in the process as well, Mark.
Provide training for their.
I wonder if that could be a partnership with one of this year, that would be, right?
Maybe have to agreed upon training.
One of the things that I heard for the first time today that we could, that possibly could reduce the need for the lawyers is, as they said, when a teacher has a lawyer, he gets a law firm. Well, they're getting a lawyer because I'm giving it to them, right? Because I believe the district already has a lawyer to investigate them, right? This is the first time I've heard that me getting a lawyer triggers the district getting a lawyer. If that's the case, then I'll get a list of lawyers. Right? You know what I'm saying?
But then there's the question, like, what are the conversations that are being had? You know what I mean? Like, if I heard Shanae say, I talked to my member about what's going on. And she's saying, I get a lawyer in response to the district getting a lawyer. You're saying,
Yeah, I don't do that.
the opposite. I mean, I'm just wondering, like, what are the ways in which we can have conversations with our members respectively to kind of suss out exactly what is going on? And does that mean you might have to reach out to Mr. Espinosa prior to the assignment of, and not just you, I mean, our union, teacher, to say as well.
Right. I think it's one thing if a teacher has a lawyer because she wants to sue the district for an allegation versus she has a lawyer because the union signed it because she's being investigated because somebody else alleged something, right? That's less of a liability for the district because she's not going to sue the district. She's, we're trying to defend her credential or whatever, right? By assigning a lawyer, not going out to the district. So we could work together maybe to diminish some of the things.
I do think that would be helpful. I do think that Mr. Espinosa and Secretary Cotton, I do think that we have to rethink this rule. That person has a lawyer, automatically I'm going to refer this to legal. Because that's definitely not, I think, sometimes the right structure, right? In my I've seen plenty of times where I have given a lawyer to number two, just simply because of the allegation, right, or whatever, and then the district still hands it, right, and the district's fine, right? So I do think that has to be rethought. I think that there has to be some partnership with labor on that. I also think that we have to push back on people if they say, I don't trust HR. I want Title IX. Unless the allegation specifically says it's because of a protected class on which it automatically goes to Title IX or triggers a reason to push it. I don't, even though we have to change the long term, I completely agree with Christine on that point. I don't think that our response should be like, fine, we will do whatever you want. We're gonna send it to a Title IX, right? Or we will send it to a lawyer. Like, that is our purview. If we say like, I'm sorry how you feel about HR. And if there's like specific reasons, absolutely, that like someone crossed the line or something, yes. But if it's simply because they're like, you know what, I have had bad experiences with HR, it should be someone else. Okay, well that's just not up to you to decide, right? That's our policy, our process. Like human resources can't take care of it. If you wanted to appeal, there's a process for that to appeal it, right? At that point. So I think those two things, there's so many things we talked about. I did want to point out that like, I do think that we gotta internally talk about and change, because they don't seem appropriate. Okay, so going back to UTR's point of our proposal of reducing it by 200,000. I don't know how comfortable I feel about that because I don't know the nature of the investigations. I hate to do this, because we've been tabling the most the biggest items, but I think I would like to see the breakdown of the cases by Losana Smith first, before I think I can make a decision of like, yes, we're gonna reduce the Title IX office budget by half. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like
I think that the feedback and the data that Jeff shared, of what it has costed over the last few years. I think that's helpful. Data is finished.
But it's even the 100,000 was already a goal, right? Like, I think Mr. Espinoza just mentioned, like, yeah, 100,000 is gonna be tough in my department as it is, right? So I think 200,000, I'm just worried that, like what that would do, so.
Again, what was,
So the lowest we spent in the last couple of years is 280, so 250 would be 100,000 less.
The biggest reduction.
Goal to get for next year, I don't know that we would, like you said, cut it in half. Sure.
it's just. Right.
I think anything that we can chip down, I think has to be seen as moving towards the right direction. I think, totally eliminate some essential contracts until we have more data to support it, and I agree with the Rachel's first motion. Just because we can't make a direct decision on cutting contracts that much until we see the data, right? How, what do we outsource the claims like? They might be, really small, or they might be really big, to where we're like, okay, we're doing, but right, so to me, the first, motion that was put on the table seems to be something that I can support. Not cutting it down that much. The second.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we make a decision on what I proposed? And then we table Francisco's idea. I don't wanna just like say no to it until we see the data. Maybe after looking at the data and sitting down, we're like, you know what, like, yeah, there's been like some things that we need to change in our practice, right? Not only because of Title IX office, but it's because of the issues with our system. Why don't we say today, like, let's cut the 100,000, and then we'll table the additional ask so that we can see the data, and then we can come back to the group at the next meeting and report out after we look at the data, what we think we can go further, or if we just simply can't. I don't want to dismiss you. Well, hopefully that won't be the case. How would you feel about that? No. Sorry, put you on the spot. How would you guys feel about that?
And so I'm just clarification, budgeting for next year to 250,000. Before then, coming back to review the data of the types of cases, what exactly, I mean, I don't know to what extent we can actually, how much we can. His department is also the most confidential.
Right.
And so I don't know how much we can specifically bring back to talk through.
Yeah, we would practically be reporting out. The only people that would see the data would be us, and the rest of the board. Like what I'm looking for is a report from Lozano Smith. I don't think Mr. Spence already has this. These are all the cases we've investigated. This is the nature of the case.
A breakdown,
A breakdown of
not
that.
necessarily the actual case.
Yeah, so I understand it's confidential. That I don't think this group can. Well, it should be, true, but shouldn't it be part of their fee to have to tell us, so. They'll check it.
More billable hours.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I should have been a lawyer. I should have been a lawyer.
I mean, we track the number of cases, we track the severity of each case, because you could just plot how many cases we've had per year and what the severity differences have been throughout the year to kind of, and then align that to how much we spent in legal fees and kind of just show.
Yeah, within our department, we track which cases have gone to legal. So we can try to pull that data. But at times, legal might be able to provide you with additional information regarding how far it's gone. So there's one case that, again, I can send one email. I might not be tracking that, because I'm just advising them CDE has been informed in regards to this complaint. Okay, nothing else to do, document on your end. And that's when Sequoia comes. And there's another one where it has to go to the board 4 or 5 times. I have to have conversations with them. They're having meetings with the opposing attorneys. It's going to litigation. They're having to review court documents, so that will take more
I
billable
think that's
hours.
fine. I mean, I think that's a clear case where like you have to refer to legal, right? So I think a breakdown from your department of why each case is being referred to legal, I think that's plenty. I don't think that we need a lawyer to tell us like it went much further because of X and Y reason. I think actually, yeah, we don't even have to go to legal. If your department already has a spreadsheet specifically of like, we refer this case to legal and this is why, I think that'd be okay for me, enough for me to see, unless you feel different, but. And I think we can send it to the rest of the board. I think they're probably gonna be interested in seeing that anyways.
I think that would be, it would not, something that would email out,
No, it would
which is
just be
highly
for the-
confidential.
Yeah.
I don't know where it would fit with a closed session conversation. Or. Just walk.
Oh, yeah. Why don't we start with that stuff? And then go from there, just because, I think we need it just so that we can come back and report at the next meeting to this committee.
So what I could do for this year is provide the date, the type of complaint, so if it's a sexual assault on campus, student or employee to student, is that something you want to know, or like specific allegations, employee touched student?
I think that, I don't think even that detail, I think that you just, I think as long as you just say, like, sexual assault, sexual harassment allegation. I think that's enough.
So for those cases, it's somewhat difficult to put it in perspective, because the sexual harassment can't be an inappropriate comment. Or it can be a student touching another student on the bottom, under the pants. So there's different severity that you can all be sexual harassment, but then if it's sexual assault, which are very few per year, then those can be potential rape on campus, and things of that nature.
That's whatever you guys internally can get rid of.
So we can. We will pull some information and get that. And if that's a real question, we will put the president of the board. I don't know how much it will put back out to the student, if you're satisfied with that amount.
We'll just come back and say.
Yes, good. It's very good. Share out.
So just a breakdown of what our department can provide. And keep the details to a minimum.
Yeah, why don't you review this beforehand? Okay. Okay, so we will move forward / table this item. For further information, but for now, we are reducing it by 100,000
To 250.
to 250 from 250.
I do recommend.
Okay, that was like a very complicated conversation, so do we really need to vote on this item? Are you guys okay? On what we're
About
gonna
100,000.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, we have 25 minutes left. Yes, go ahead.
I know that, Barbara is here, and it may be the contracts that Nutrition Services is bringing falls under Fund 13, which is not part of general fund. I think maybe this group could approve as a batch, but she can talk you through what you see. I don't think that we're cutting food for kids.
Yeah, so that's kind of the idea. So we have. Listed out every single nutrition item, but then we made a nutrition incident to kind of group them together as blanket purchase orders for food group. And I think with Barbara, for these.
Yes, because
So we did condense them for food service, so if we wanted to go through the condensed view or just all together, you know, however you want to do it.
I think the condensed view is okay. It's pretty good.
Yeah, the condensed version, I think, the biggest part is food and supplies, which are usually on a bid and, items that we're using, in our meals. And then the others, sometimes are other items, other purchase orders, services, and one-time purchases for this.
So we grouped many of the vendors all together since they're all in produce purchases, that totaled up to about 11.7 million. Various vendors. I don't know, do you guys want?
These are just purely food distribution.
It is food, and some of the purchase orders for the food don't have to be specific because they fluctuate depending on supply. So that's why the 11 million is, a lot higher than our food costs. Right now, I was looking at the budget, we're about 4.5 million, spent on food. It doesn't include supplies, but it's nowhere near the 11 million. So just in case, you know, in flags or, you know, that are shocks that you go, that, the 11 million is there. It's not planned to be spent.
Yeah, so we spent about 8 million a year on food, but each vendor needs an open PO to order up to that amount. And so by the end of the year, we produce those throughout the year.
And this is all Fund 13.
Yeah.
Okay, can you just tell us for 1 second, Mr. Carter, what is Fund 13 specific?
Yeah, so the Fund 13 is the cafeteria fund, every school district has one. It's separate revenue and separate expenditures on food items and food services for community departments. So it's self-sustaining, they generate their own revenue based on the number of meals provided. And typically, unless they're in a deficit spending, it does not affect Fund 01 at all. And it has staffing.
That's been included in that.
Yeah, all nutrition staffing in Fund 13 as well.
That's grant funded positions, right?
There are
Except
food
what?
service, except grant fund nutrition. So there are Fund 01 grants,
Okay.
and then there's Fund 13, which has its own revenue and certain grants as well built into it. So it depends on the nutrition employees, but only food service employees or staff that supports food service are funded out of Fund 13.
So, on line 8-7, well, I guess they're all 8-7-6, the warehouse lease at Regatta. It's, budgeted for 850,000, but we've only spent 290,000, so there's 560,000 unspent.
We paid monthly rent on that.
In some warehouse during modernization, we've had to move out of our, permanent facility to a temporary facility, as of March 14th, and the lease runs until October, 2026. As a monthly. Yeah.
So this is just what you pay, this is the budget for, it. This is the 290 is what you paid so far, is that?
Correct.
What kind of warehouse is this?
This is, it supports our, drivers and all the food and supplies that come into the district. As opposed to contracting out with, management group while we're under construction. We decided that, it would be, better for our staff, which could continue to work. And, we could continue to provide similar meals to our students and such. Because it is, 81,000 a month.
What is, kind of warehouse is it?
It's 30,000 square feet of refrigeration, freezer, and dry storage. This is where all of our deliveries come in. It's sent out to our schools daily. Because the construction company needed total control of the facility with power and water and heat to move forward on the schedule that we set up.
for,
What's the next one? I'm gonna ask, sorry, I wanna ask what the next one is, and what's Monarch leasing?
so Monarch leasing are, trucks of age, so we bought, this is a one-time purchase for this
So
year.
it has to do with just trucks?
It's 4 trucks that we purchased, for the school deliveries. So it's one time and it came out of this year's budget. And we had allocated, funds.
Sorry, I just was really curious on how that all worked out. Okay, since so if we are leasing those trucks, we don't, the district does not maintain them?
Yes, we're leasing that we maintain them to a certain degree, oil changes, tires, inside, wear and tear. But these are outright purchase, so we would maintain it. But looking at the cost originally, food services, revenue fluctuates from year to year. So to purchase our trucks and not have that as an ongoing expense when we have the funds in our available and we're on the spend down agreement with the state. We felt that, purchasing the agreements was a better decision for the cafeteria fund, as opposed to leasing, the trucks. The cost is less over the lifetime of the trucks.
This is gonna be maybe a dumb question. So thank you. I've learned a lot about the budget over the last 6 years. I guess nutrition is the one area that I know nothing about. So what can, if we were to like, let's say we were to cut the warehouse, which we can't, but let's say we were to cut the cost of the warehouse, right? Could we use that to pay for more cafeteria workers? Like, is that a way, like possible ways to use Fund 13 for? Or is Fund 13
Yes.
specifically only for supplies and?
No, Fund 13 covers all of the expenses for the cafeteria, labor, supplies, leasing, everything that has to do and is, part of the, cafeteria fund, approvals, from the state. So we have been able, through the negotiations, to give increased salaries, percentages, during negotiations. And we've also, over the last couple of years, been able to add certain position, and I'm hoping that after the modernization project, that we'll be able to add more positions and get more, contracts, to support those, that labor. So, yes, we make increases with the revenue that we bring in.
Got it.
But it's,
There's a healthy fund balance in Fund 13, so cutting the warehouse is a direct correlation and not affording more positions. We could add more positions, they're just staffed at schools based on their PO counts already.
Got it.
I mean, we would increase our costs by contracting out a management company and then also have our warehouse staff without, work for, 8 months to a year. So, and then the quality of food would also, I feel, drop drastically, with the use of management.
I see. Okay. Shanae, do you have a question?
Not right now.
Okay.
For sure.
Mark?
So why were food service staff laid off? If there's plenty of money to hire.
We've,
So, those positions that were put on the RIF list were all vacant. And it was in an attempt to right size the staffing to match enrollment. So if enrollment's going down, theoretically we would need less food service positions to match. We're implementing new, programs in order to get higher increase of food service, meals. And so if the percentage of students eat more meals, we can continue to staff the levels that they are, but right now we're not hitting our peak or current staff.
Well, I can't say this though. That's the position of the district. However, I see, an increase of hours being offered to food service workers. So for an example, if you work, you're contracted for 3 hours, you may time cost for 2, so there is a need for the staff. In the service, there's definitely a need.
As a permanent ongoing or just a occasional time card?
Yes, yeah, it's not like a day here and a day there, this is, we've often seen sites that have members that are permanently time carded because those additional hours are needed.
And we've
You
worked
acknowledge
with,
that.
we've worked with, Teamsters.
No, I'm just saying, when Jeff's point is saying that the staffing is not needed because of the enrollment, I just beg to differ because I see the additional hours being offered. So that goes to tell me there may need to be some type of reassessing in contracted hours for services.
Yeah, and it's all look at how many
Yeah.
students at each school take the meals.
Right.
I have a question. To staffing, I think it's more on the staffing piece, because I know every school. When I went to school, they offered breakfast, lunch, right, too, breakfast, lunch. Now we have breakfast, late breakfast, we have lunch, we have breakfast in the classroom, we have breakfast in the cafeteria. We have, various variations depending on the site that you go to. So when we're addressing those staffing needs, are we taking that into consideration, the offerings at each different site? The addition of our great, Latin warriors, right? And just how the workload has dramatically changed throughout the years to this day. Hey, because if we're just basing it on a matrix of there's 200 students, we're doing 200 feeding versus the different capacity that it now takes, because at some sites I could go in and see, hey, Steve, right? The small cafeteria, we're all coming in there, they're shifting. I go to another school where it's like, I see them like in around little tote bags because now they're having to go drop off, pick up, swap these food, now come back and disperse the food back that will now bring it. So I mean, the load of the work is different, so are we taking that into
Yeah,
consideration?
it's not directly tied to enrollment levels. You could lose 100 kids and still have the same exact number of meals depending on which kids you lost, right? So it's really looking at the number of meals served and provided and eaten at each site.
Okay. Just one, that kind of thing, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think I lack the expertise on this issue. I would love, Barbara, if I'd love you could sit down with Kim and Shanae and Justin, to discuss the staffing issue. If possible, if we have the funding, like obviously I think that we always try to do less time carding and more, people on the ground, right? If it is there. So would it be okay if you guys have that discussion and look for some of these together instead of the whole group? I think that if you all could come back to us and say, discussion have happened, we're keeping the contracts, we have figured some of the staffing issues out, I think that would feel better. I don't think that I have the expertise to look at these contracts to some extent and push back or.
I think over the last few years, we have worked together, especially with the teacher members, because they're part-time and don't usually having additional hours to do their work depending on the programs that we run. We can go through the list, we extended hours, and right now during construction, we did meet prior to moving our staff from central kitchen up for our secondaries. And sometimes there might be an additional need for those hours, but when we move back to kitchen, to the central kitchen, it'll be a different situation. But for those elementary schools where we change programs and increase hours, we make them permanent. Our supervisors, I think they're all at 7.5 hour positions right now.
So yeah, there have been oftentimes when we had conversations and work on the one-off basis. But I do think there's a need for an overall assessment because Plate It Up is in place. I know Veronica used to really drive, my colleague drove the food service department there. So I can speak to just communicate with her being a loop on that department. The Plate It Up program has extreme stress on the food service workers because they're actually preparing them from scratch. There's also, you know, with the shift of, the other sites, you know, coming over while the kitchen is being repaired, there's the limited space, even when there isn't another site there, there's been often limited space. So there's a couple of things that's been going on with food services that try to, you know, work out. It may fix it and it goes back to its old habits and ways. So I'm definitely open to looking at the staffing and looking at the hours and things of that nature. So. Okay.
So, very much open, and Justin, I would love to see the, voices come back a little bit
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
To have that communication on a consistent basis, and that does involve, everybody. I mean, that was, Voices was a program that involved both Teamsters, SSA, IPT, HR, and I believe at some points, there was a board member that would come and sit and listen also at that point. But moving, total want to get big communication going forward. Looking at these contracts, not the expert in any of this, but having sat on this committee multiple times, I see a lot of new equipment being bought. I see and hear the reasoning for the vehicles being bought. But who's going to maintain, especially these are diesel driven, these are refrigeration trucks at some point. Who's going to maintain that? Because I just looked it up, we have one auto mechanic in our district. And so since food service is a self-sustaining program, are they going to eventually also put out to have a mechanic or a person that can maintain the vehicle? And this equipment, I mean, that has been a complaint throughout the entire district by staff, both Teamster and 21, that the equipment can't be maintained in a timely manner. You gotta have somebody coming in constantly. And I don't see that in here about the maintaining of the schools. You bought new refrigerators, I see that. I see you buying new equipment here and there. But who's maintaining all of that?
So we do have a contract with Minnesota Refrigeration, they do our refrigeration, because it's an emergency situation when the, refrigerators go down. So they're, you know, on call almost 24 hours a day, come in to do care. We do have, a coordinator that assesses it, when we do get the quote from the, retail. We also have commercial appliances that do our ovens. We also contract out with food services. These are specialized services that require a lot of different, you know, certifications. So as we move back into our central kitchen, we are looking possibly for another position to support the repairs, not only and maintenance, not only in the kitchen, but that makes sense.
So we have one equipment mechanic and one vehicle mechanic. So to Ken's point, there's all this equipment going in and then the work is being outsourced to be repaired. So I think there's conversations to be had around that.
I have a step up on all the refrigeration because that's what my son is licensed to do, through a company, but understanding how often this has to be done and how to maintain it, it's huge. And are they the best persons out there anymore doing that? Cause I mean, I know Mazzoni and I know Estes. I know there's some other companies out there. No, my son doesn't work for any of those. And I wouldn't want him to, honestly, work in the district. I try to keep my kids out only because it keeps me out of their business. But yeah, keep it away, keep it out of the house. But how often do we look at, you know, the contracts and make sure that they're the best?
So we go off the bid for best price.
get pricing yearly, every other year?
I know we're in the process this year. Okay, so we're updating all this. Okay.
We're spending all this money. I wanna make sure we're spending, even though it's something that we know you can maintain in your department, and I totally trust the people that are feeding our kids. I just wanna make sure it's in the best interest of our kids too, and where your money is being spent.
Yeah, let's do this then. Let's do a follow-up conversation between Barbara and 21 and Teamsters. President has agreed to join you guys in that conversation. Maybe someone from, it doesn't have to be in the units card with someone from missing services if there's questions about funding. Like kind of like a little subcommittee for you guys to discuss all these issues. And then for one of the future meetings, it's not to do the next one because the time is short. The subcommittee can report back to us on that. If there's any additional discussions that we need to have as a whole group. Is that okay with everybody? Wanna add something?
Well, I think it's a good, conversation starter, because I think we're just trying to, put some of these pieces together. And maybe, find a solution, but I also believe it's a way to, build that trust back on, like, I totally, I trust you, Barbara. We've worked together many years, so it's just, really how do we now engage and, clear up some of the things too, like some of the concerns. And how can we support through those healthy balances that you have in your department, maybe other issues, because I think some of the issues that I have is that, now currently we're opening up our schools to like smaller students, right? That the needs become greater. So is there a way that, we can partner and support from your point to like some of those smaller hands that be within the, your department? So just, really, I think bringing all heads together, knowing that we're all moving in the same direction, or at least having the same thought frame around some of these issues. So
If there are particular issues that want to be addressed, during that, if you could just shoot me an email with those, then we could be better prepared for the meeting at that time.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Should I be?
I'm sorry.
If Teamsters and 21 have specific issues that they want to bring up for that meeting about staffing,
Yeah.
if we could send that to Barbara ahead of time. So
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
that'd be great.
I will partner with Miguel on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you for that. Okay, we have 3 minutes, so I suggest Mr. Mitchell and Mizera had asked if they could ask a question about the TK-12's ops contract. There's 2, but with the same one. So is it okay if because of time they ask their question and then we continue the conversation at the next meeting after that? Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, is Summer still on her?
I don't see her on.
Oh man, she bailed. She knew it was
You
not
can
gonna
ask
make
it,
it.
we can bring it to her before.
Well, you might know.
Okay.
So these are the Addy, it's payments to Addy, which is, was marketed to us as a cost neutral service that we weren't gonna have to pay anything. So I was a little alarmed to see, 238,000 going out the door.
Yeah, so, the way this works is the grant that they applied for, we were awarded the dollars. So we got we got the revenue, and then we pay them out as a contractor to do the work. So we're just a pass-through middleman
Okay,
for this grant that it's a one-time grant that's going away, and we're not reapplying, and we won't be associated with that.
Okay, because it was told to us that they were gonna bill Medicaid, and Medicaid was gonna pay them directly.
Oh, no, they got a grant awarded to us, and we were just the middleman.
Okay,
There was some confusion at the beginning as to how the grant was worded.
okay, all right, thank you.
So all these expenditures were paid for by that grant, and it's just, once that's gone, we won't get it.
Oh, okay, well,
Look at that. We got TK-12 subs done with it. Okay, so the next meeting, sorry, this two part. I'll pass it on to you.
so the next meeting, is scheduled for April 17th. We have a great spring break, so we won't be taking your time during spring break. And we'll just come back to the table, I think, and keep going on these things. Hopefully we'll be able to find somebody somewhere. I appreciate the time.
Well, Today we did find 100,000, so we are now at 100,000, so yay. At least we're not going the other
If we
way.
stick to that, it's 300,000 over 3 years.
Oh, look at that. Jeff, good thinking. Thank you for that. Just to clarify,
3-year projections.
Yeah.
Million ways.
just to clarify, we did have some change on the dates. I did email you all just in case. The 17th is the next one, then 21st, 24th, and then 28th, okay? And with the rate we're going, we're probably gonna need all of them. So keep it in your calendar,
Yeah,
please.
we did what, 3 today?
Yeah, so, we're making progress, but, and then we will follow up
It
on
was
this
a
question.
mistake not to do the other for I'm sorry, anything with legal, you know we're gonna go after or
We
something
still,
like
we
that.
still have some big ones with special ed and services, HR, and then.
Special meeting available.
Yes, thank you so much.
In reality, food services could be in soon.